All right, so what's going on in Milwaukee? Giannis, man, he's not happy. Giannis is a competitor. This is a guy that is a franchise guy, which is rare nowadays, right? Like, franchise guys rarely exist where you draft them, you grow them, you develop them, you maintain that relationship and you build that relationship to the point where that player wants to spend his whole career there. We did see that blow up recently with Luka Doncic, and so I do think that this is going to happen again. Not to the same extent, right? Like the Nico Harrison thing, that's a whole nother thing that, we need to talk about another time because there was some stuff going on behind the scenes there. But in this case, I do think that this is about to blow up, and I think we could have seen this coming very obviously for the short term, right? Like Giannis quietly asked for a trade in the offseason. Anybody who knows basketball can look at this roster and tell you they were not going to be competitive. Talent-wise, they're bottom 3 to 5 in the league. Last year, the Dame thing didn't work out, truthfully, as much as I love Giannis, because Giannis will not set a screen. He every screen he sets is a ghost screen. They were still able to be good offensively, but defensively they were bad. Dame, it was just a bad mix, right? We're not going to get all the way into that, but going into this year, they had to pick a very specific direction, and it had to be a full commitment, and I don't think they made a full commitment in any direction. In fact, I still don't think they have, and I think that's why they're in the situation they're in. We know Giannis wants to compete, right? This is a guy, finals MVP, I believe a 2-time MVP, defensive player of the year, NBA champion, 9-time NBA All-Star, all with this franchise. They've built this relationship, and mind you, Milwaukee should be credited a lot, for maintaining that. And it's hard to keep a superstar happy today in sports. It's in every sport, but especially basketball and college sports as well. Players just have so much power, right? Like we look back in the day to what our fathers watched, and the players didn't have much power, right? Like coach wasn't happy with you, he'd bench it. Today, I watch guys sub themselves in constantly. And it's not just that, it's whether it's contracts or like just all sorts of things. Players have the utmost power nowadays. And so Giannis has all the power to essentially kind of tell the Bucks what he wants to do. And what he wants to happen. And I'm not saying that he was not aware of the Dame situation. In fact, I think he was. But it would be idiotic to think he was okay or that he signed off on a plan that going into this year, their second best player was going to be Miles Turner, and their third best player was going to be Kyle Kuzma. You get the gist. So I'm not surprised that this is blown up. They're not competitive, and they're not going to compete this year no matter how good they do. I think with Giannis, they're a little under 500, maybe about 500. Without Giannis, they're like 1-6. And Giannis is not going to be readily available for the rest of his career because, he's going to have knick-knack injuries. He's getting a little bit older. So he's looking to compete. He's not looking to be in Milwaukee and wait for Ryan Rollins to have another 3 years of development, right? Like that's another thing. Milwaukee, I give them credit. They did bet on Ryan Rollins. They turned down trades with him involved the past 2 years, and they've found minutes for him in rotations that were veteran guard heavy and just found minutes for him when it was not easy. But they saw something in him clearly, and they bought into that. And so the payoff is well deserved. I'll give them that credit. AJ Green is doing great, but the Bucks, I think, have to completely pivot to a rebuilding type direction. And obviously it helps to have Giannis, right? Like you have Giannis, you can pull off a big trade to kind of get that going. And you do have a few pieces, right, that have kind of already started that, like the Ryan Rollins, like the AJ Greens of the world, blah, blah, blah. But, they don't have much draft capital. I don't think they have a way to their own first-round pick for the next, 5 years. And so they need draft capital. They need young guys. But most importantly right now, if they were to trade Giannis is making 50-something million this year, I think high 50s next year, and a player option for 60s on the third year. The third year he's probably going to turn it down because, the way the economy works, right? Like by then the dollar will be worth more and contracts will be up. So even, anyway, the point being, he has for sure guaranteed this year and next year. if the Bucks were to wait to trade him until after the season, first of all, you have a much more unhappy Giannis. You have a much more disgruntled fan base, blah, blah, blah. Just, kind of in no man's land is where they would be until then. But if they were to make a trade deadline, they can get a lot more value for Giannis than in the offseason because, a team is potentially getting 2 playoff runs with Giannis rather than 1, or 2 versus 3. You get the gist. And so, or 3 versus 2. So, I think, for the Bucks perspective, they do need to look to trade Giannis by this deadline. And, last year we saw Luka traded in February. Nobody was expecting it. It came out of nowhere. And so I'm really making this video because I think at some point, whether it's tomorrow or it's in February, there's going to be a trade that flips the league upside down. And it may not be the ones I expect. But I'm here to tell you the ones, that go through a couple different teams, a couple different packages, and see what might possibly work. So, I actually have a paper right here with some of the teams. I just jotted them down real quick. But, like, the main teams that come to mind, right, before I even get to that, we're looking for competitors. We're looking for competitive teams or that with Giannis would be competitive. So, in the West, you got, like, Denver, you got Phoenix, you got Phoenix, you got the Warriors, and you got LA. LA is not going to be able to get Giannis because of assets unless they trade Austin Reeves, which obviously is not going to happen this year. The Warriors, they would have to trade one of Jimmy Butler or Draymond. Jimmy obviously not, and Draymond, I mean, if they didn't get rid of him the past 2 years, they're not going to. I think Steph values that relationship too much, and there's a lot of variables to that. But and then you got Denver. Denver doesn't have the assets either. They truly don't. I mean, the Milwaukee doesn't necessarily want Murray or right? Like they're looking for young pieces if they're going to do this trade. And so the Nuggets just don't have the assets, whether it's draft capital or young guys. They're more a now-oriented team, and so that's the trick with this, right? Like trading Giannis to a competitor sounds like a good idea until you realize that competitors don't have many assets, right? And so the Suns, same thing. So obviously, we say that, but there are certain teams that are competitive with assets. And the one that immediately comes to mind, boom, Thunder. The Thunder, I mean, they're on their way to just an absolute dynasty, the biggest one we've ever seen in basketball. What they've got going on right now with that team, that depth, that talent, that draft capital. I mean, even this year, right? Like New Orleans is the worst team in the league. They own New Orleans' pick, assuming that I believe it's top 14. And Pelicans are going to be bad, or maybe it's top 10, top 5. I don't know, but in all likelihood they're getting the Pelicans pick, and in all likelihood it's also going to be a top 5 to top 3 pick. So when I look at the Thunder, there's no universe where I think it's likely that they trade for Giannis this season, right? Like their roster's loaded. Look at their current record. Look at how they're doing. You have no reason to make a trade, especially with, the young guys that are currently blossoming. And, I mean, you just got so much good stuff going on over there. That's something I can't even get into. But in the off season, right, if that pick conveys from New Orleans, you have a top 3 pick with extreme value in a loaded draft class. And then you can kind of build and orient the trade around that, right? You can throw in the Dorts or even though I hate to say it, the Carusos or whoever may have to be in there, whether it's for contract filler or just a roster spot or blah, blah, blah. But then you really have something. And it would also give the Thunder this year, assuming they did that trade, right, they wouldn't have won a championship, because if they won a championship, they're not doing that trade. And so, it gives them this year to see, really rock out, see if these young guys can pull it off again, which is a hard task, tall task. And then if they can't, then they have that option. So I think if for some reason the Bucks were to not move Giannis this season, which is stupid for their sake, then I do believe that would be super likely in the offseason. The next team that comes to mind, and this is actually my favorite trade package, or just ideal trade, and I think it's the most likely, and it's one that I don't think many people see coming, is the Spurs. So the Spurs, yeah, they're built around Wemby. The thing with Wemby right now is he's currently one of the best players in the NBA, but he's on a rookie contract. For the rest of his career, other than I don't know how much left he has in his rookie contract off the top of my head, but he will be paid, the max dollar amount that is possible. So you have Wemby, one of the best players on a team where he is making very little, so you have a whole lot of cap space. You also take into account that, knock on wood, like Wemby is super injury prone. Just look at his frame, just look at how he moves and his size, and it's just, anatomy, right? He's super injury prone, and it's not guaranteed that he is healthy the rest of his career. Right now, you got a top 5 player in Wemby on a low contract. He's healthy, and you have a solid team around him. You also have loaded, guards, young guys at the guard position. You got Stephon Castle, you got the Dylan Harpers, you got the Devin Vassell's and the Keldon Johnsons, who aren't as young but are a little bit more developed. And, obviously they have De'Aaron Fox, right? Like, De'Aaron Fox is one of my favorite players, for sure. And so anyway, I think they have the capital, but I also think it just makes sense for them. Whereas a lot of these other teams, they can make it make sense, but they do have to make it make sense. This already makes sense. To go ahead and bet on Wemby being young, him being healthy, De'Aaron Fox, they have a lot of good pieces on the sides, right? Like, you may have to throw in a Julian Champagnie, I think is how you say his name. Or, there's a few other guys you may have to throw in there. But for the most part, I think, low risk, extremely high reward, using, making the most of a timeline that may not be there forever. I think that's a great idea. The main trade package that we are here to talk about that's most realistic, and I think I said that about the last one. I get a little bit too carried away, is the Hawks. And it's probably the one you've heard about. It's the one that's kind of trending around, whether it's Google or YouTube or whatever. It is trending, and there's reasons for it, right? Like, the Hawks, they're currently a decent team when they should not be. Nickeil Alexander-Walker having an amazing year. I thought he was a great pickup, but I did not think he was going to improve this much offensively, given the role. Trae Young, obviously, amazing player. He's hurt. Onyeka Okongwu, man, what a year from that guy. That guy is totally broke out. Not like I would say 8 times out of 10, somebody breaks out or somebody has a great season. I feel like I saw it coming for the most part. I thought Okongwu was kind of done developing. I didn't think there was much of his game that anybody hadn't seen. I was clearly wrong, man. He proved me wrong. So credit to him and credit to them. But you got Okongwu, who's upped his trade value tremendously. You got Ricochet, who was a first pick in the NBA draft, 2 years ago? And then you got some side pieces. You got Asa Newell, who I watched in the Summer League. He's a really solid player. And a couple other guys, Dyson Daniels, you could throw in there. You put a trade package together of Asa Newell, Dyson Daniels, Okongwu, the main piece, and Ricochet, the second main piece, and some draft capital, which I would have to look at the capital that they do have, then I think that's a manageable trade, right? Especially if the Bucks have kind of looked at the market, assessed the market, and they don't see anything comparable. I think that is a realistic trade that could happen. And, I think the Hawks could also trade Kristaps Porzingis over Okongwu. They would actually probably prefer that, the way Okongwu's playing and the way Porzingis' health has declined. But, the Bucks are going to want young pieces, and the way Okongwu's been playing and his future projections, I think, they would definitely take Okongwu in those talks over KP. But, let's say that trade goes through, right? Like, the Bucks are now heading in a new direction with Ryan Rollins, an emerging guard at point guard, super solid talent. AJ Green, straight sharpshooter, young guy at the shooting guard. You'd have Ricochet, a first-round pick with a lot of potential at the 3, Okongwu, who's a breaking-out young guy at the 4, and then Miles Turner at the 5, because you did that dumb Miles Turner trade or signing that nobody really understands. Miles Turner is a strange guy, but that's for another another day. So you look at that Bucks roster, and at least they have a clear direction. Like that's a trash roster. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty sorry, but up to down, like I think that gives them a direction. It gives them an identity. Versus, like when a fan base is for too long at a point where they're in no man's land, man, things get rough. Things get rough, distrust, and it's bad. But let's also look at the Hawks, right? Like that's the most important part. They would be the one kind of facilitating and initiating this trade for Giannis, because they do have one of the best point guards in the NBA in the world, and I think Trae Young's on and off numbers prove that this year, even if the Hawks have been good when he's been out, or the defenses look great, or blah, 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 like Trae Young, man, he's nice. He's nice. Like, yeah, he is a net negative on defense, but he's such a net positive on offense that, you balance it out, right? And you balance it out, and he's a plus. He's a plus, a big plus. And there's not many guys who can run an offense or make people as comfortable on the court as him. He's just amazing at knowing other guys' tendencies and finding them there. And I think everybody thrives, right? You put Giannis in a situation like that, oh my goodness, the lobs that would come from that scenario. So you look at that team, that would be a Trae Young team. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, great defender. Helped Trae Young in the backcourt. He's a bigger guard, but he's also, scoring and doing his job on the offensive end this year. You would have Jalen Johnson at the 3. I don't even need to say anything about him. Giannis at the 4, and then Kristaps Porzingis to stretch the court at the 5. I mean, that is a stacked starting lineup. Now, you do have some concern for, the second strings and the backups, the subs, and how deep that team would be. I would, have to look into that a little bit, but that's a solid roster. It puts the Hawks going towards the direction and the position they want to go, and it puts the Bucks more in the direction and position they want to go. So I obviously the draft capital would have to be worked out in there, and how much and to what extent that would be, I think is really unpredictable. Like you look back at the Rudy Gobert trade, I think there was like 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert. There's other stars who get traded for 1 or 2. So that's just not something that is predictable within the market. Like money is or other things, but yeah, a lot of stuff going on in Milwaukee, man. Giannis is not happy, and hot take, I saved it for the end, but I'm not sure that Giannis is hurt. I'm not sure that Giannis really strained his calf. I mean, if you're a guy who is on the top of his game, but at the same time only downhill to go, you don't necessarily want to waste effort and time and potential injury risk, like to lose and to be bad. I mean, that's not his thing. And so Giannis is the opposite of that, in fact. And I don't think that he's necessarily hurt. And maybe he is, you know what I mean? Maybe he is. I think he's a great guy. But the way Milwaukee has, kind of like half committed to him, I think he's decided to do the same thing back. And I don't necessarily have a stance on it. I just think that's what's happening. I mean, I'm a basketball player myself. Well, I was. And I also just watch a lot of basketball, and that was suspect how he went down and how he acted afterwards. I pray that he's okay and that he's not actually hurt, and that I don't mean to make light of anybody's real injury, because I've had many. But I wouldn't be surprised if some drama comes out in the next month or two, or maybe like, who knows, in a year, saying like, Giannis internal arguments over Giannis's health, or his conditions, or the, his right calf strain, whatever it may be. But yeah, no, I know this is a long video. Probably won't have anybody watch it. Those of you who do will not make it this far. That's okay. This is just a project by me. Get comfortable talking about ball, share my knowledge, and just kind of have a record, logbook of some of this stuff. This is just something I'm doing on the side and really enjoying it. I think not necessarily this aspect, but in this basketball universe, I'm going to go very far. So if you are here, if you are able to know my name, remember it. You will hear it again probably later than sooner, but hopefully sooner than later. I will get more comfortable talking. Not even really sure where to look yet. The audio is going to be horrid. I have a mic, a good setup that I am going to set up, and so the next video will be proper. I'm not sure if the way I'm recording this will fit to image, so that may also be off. In summary, this is going to be a really jank video, but that's all right. That's all right. You know, you're never truly ready to start something. You start it and you learn and you grow, and you kind of just jump in that cold water. The water is not going to get any warmer while you wait to jump. So I'm jumping in, but really enjoyed doing this video, honestly. Hope you've enjoyed it, if whoever you may be, if you exist, and enjoy basketball. Peace.